Hello, my name is Samantha and welcome to my August reading vlog. I am starting out the month with Role Playing by Cathy Yardley. This is a romance. I'm about 75 pages in and I'm really enjoying it so far. What's sort of unique about this one is that she is 48 and he is 50. I am so excited about that. Most romances, they're in their early 20s. Not in this one. And as someone who's 37, I'm excited to read this one. It's going really well so far. They are obviously like 10 plus years older than me, but there are parts of their lives that I relate to more than falling in love when you're 22, which I'm glad that this book exists. So I hope it continues to be good. So I'm getting ready to read outside, out on my balcony. Wanted to give you a peek at the balcony garden as of August 1st. I wouldn't expect it to look too much different by the end of the month, but here is what it looks like today. It is August 2nd, and I'm going to try and get some chores done while filming this video. So while I sort through some laundry, I'm going to tell you where I'm at in role playing. I'm now about a third of the way into the book, a little over a third, and our main characters have just met, which sounds odd for a romance novel to have them not meet until a third of the way through. But let me explain. So they have been interacting with each other. They know each other through a online gaming guild, and it's set up as a local guild, so they know they live close to each other, but they don't know who they are. And the interesting thing is that he thinks that she's like 70 or 80. She thinks that he's 20, maybe 21. And now, the part where I'm at, they have just met in person for the first time. And so I'm very excited to see how their dynamic changes now that they are going to be interacting in person. So that is what is up next in role playing. I am out for a walk and we are starting out the month strong, friends. First book of the month, 4 stars. So excited. It was, of course, Role Playing by Cathy Yardley, and I really enjoyed this one. It was so cute. The last 2/3 of it I read yesterday. I spent like the entire afternoon reading. And it was also really nice because I had like a library reading day with my mom. So I went to the library, got some books for her, went back to her house, and read for like an hour or so because she had to take her cat to the vet, but then I just went home and just read the whole rest of the day. And what I think I loved most about this book was that they got to be friends first. And I think for these two people, if it had started out with romantic intentions, it wouldn't have ended up where it did. And it's got bi rep, it's got demi rep, which I'm not sure if I read before, but absolutely loved and want to read more of. And I really loved getting to see these two people become partners before becoming romantic partners. It was so good. 4 stars. So I started reading A Most Agreeable Murder by Julia Seals, and I only got like 35 pages in, but it's just not working for me. So the premise of this one, which is not bad, is that it's like reading Pride and Prejudice if Lizzie was really into true crime, and it's kind of a comedy, which, like I said, that sounds pretty intriguing. That sounds pretty good. But it's just not working for me. And like, I'm kind of bummed, like, because I wish it was, because I was kind of excited to read this, but I feel like even though I've only read 35 pages, I get a feel for the book, and I just don't think that it's gonna, it's just not working for me. I am not having any luck finding my next book to read. The two I got at the library I only read a couple of pages each, but I just am not immediately pulled into them. And I do feel for both of them that it would be possible for it to like turn around for me, but I want something I know I like. So I'm gonna return these. So they are Where the Truth Lies by Anna Bailey and The Family Plot by Megan Collins. Again, like, it's possible that I would have ended up liking these, but there's not that spark right at the beginning. And especially because, like, so today is August 11th. Yeah, let's get going. I want a good book. I got 4 books at the library yesterday. 3 fiction, 1 nonfiction. I've already DNF'd one of them. And this one, Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. I read a B.A. Paris last month that I really liked. This one, so it started off, I'm a few pages in and I'm like, finally, one that I like. The main character is a guy, which is a little unusual in this genre. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I'm on page 19. I hate him. I don't know if I can read this book. Good morning. As I water the plants this morning, first I have to say I have had more DNFs this month than I'm pretty sure I've had the rest of the year combined. So while I water the plants this morning, I'm going to tell you about the 3 audiobooks I was able to finish so far this month. And then I do have a book I am really liking, so oh my goodness, thank goodness, but let's get to it. And we start with filling up the watering can. So the first audiobook I was able to finish is Death and the Conjuror by Tom Mead. And this is a historical mystery. It's set in the 1930s in London. And the conjurer, in this case, being a magician who is assisting the detective, because this story involves 3 locked room mysteries. It's not 3 separate, like, short stories. It's one story that happens to involve crimes happening 3 times in locked rooms. There are 2 murders and 1 theft. So obviously, that's a good hook. I wanted to read it. But I just, overall, not super impressed with this book. There was a part that I did like, but overall it wasn't, not enough to lift the boat up to a 2-star. This was a 1-star, unfortunately. Yeah, the other sour part about this is that, like, of the 4 audiobooks that I've read so far this month, I've had 1 star and 3 2 stars, so not going too hot. So the part of Death and the Conjurer that I did like was the reveal of the who and the how for the first murder. But yeah, other than that, just not for me. And then the second and third audiobook I finished this month were books 18 and 19 in the Needlecraft Mystery Series by Monica Ferris. And obviously books 18 and 19, I've read, there's only maybe 1 or 2 in this series I haven't read. They're always 2 or 3 stars. So, good enough to keep listening to the audiobooks, but just, not overall great. But I do like it because it is a needlecraft mystery, and cross-stitch is one of my biggest hobbies. And in this series, the main character owns a needlecraft store. So they talk about cross-stitch and crochet and knitting and needlepoint and stuff like that. And I do some of those things, so it's nice to know what they're talking about. So book 18 in this series is called Darned If You Do. And this one is a little weird because it takes a while to get to the main characters. So it's about this guy. So there's this storm and it knocks over a tree in his yard and crashes through his roof and breaks his leg, basically. And it is then discovered that he is a hoarder, unfortunately. And so while he is in the hospital, his cousin, I want to say, through certain circumstances, gets like power of attorney to have the house cleaned and repaired while he is unavailable. And then, as it turns out, someone murders him in his hospital bed. Which is kind of, you know, not what you'd expect from that setup, but that's the way it is. So that one was a 2-star. It was okay. And then book 19 is called Knit Your Own Murder. And in this one, the needlework store is sponsoring a charity auction, so for some like local organization. And so they have asked people to volunteer to knit stuffed animals that then they're going to sell to raise money. And during the auction, they have the like 7 people who knit the most animals. They have them like up on the stage during the auction. But unfortunately, what happens during the auction is that one of the women who is up there knitting basically falls over and dies. And it is discovered that someone has like put poison on her yarn so that as she is working with it, it like seeps into her skin and unfortunately kills her. There is also then another murder and then another attempted murder, and there's a clear connection between like the 3 victims, but it's like, well, other than those people, who else had it out for all 3? Like, they didn't like each other, but like, who else could have also had it out for all 3 people? So again, this was a 2-star read. And then the 4th audiobook was The Swifts by Beth Lincoln. And this is a middle grade mystery. This is about a family whose names they're all like different descriptive words. So the main character is probably like, I don't know, 12 years old. Her name is Shenanigan, to give you an idea of how the family is named. And the Swifts are having their family reunion, and basically people start dying. And so Shenanigan and her sister have to figure out, like, well, it's probably a family member doing it, but who? Another thing I did really like about this book is that one of the cousins is non-binary and uses they, them pronouns, and I think that's really cool. And I think it also then, because they then chose a new name for themselves, and there's a definite theme in this book of that like you get to decide who you are, and it's not like anyone else's opinion or label on you that determines your characteristics or who you're going to end up being. Overall, though, it was again 2 stars, so not stellar, but at least I'm getting through some books. I'm reading We Could Be So Good by Sebastian, and it's a romance. 2 men who work at the same newspaper. One of them, his father, owns the paper. But it's 1958, so things are a little complicated. And, you know, I'm sitting out here crying because they just hugged for the first time. Oh my God. It is August 25th, and while I am getting my cat's dinner together, I will tell you, I am still reading and loving We Could Be So Good. I do have another DNF, though. It is my 2nd DNF for B.A. Paris, unfortunately. It is The Breakdown. I've been listening to this on audiobook, and I've got somewhere between like 15 and 20% into it, and I'm just going to call it on this one. It's not bad, but I feel like I'm just not going to like it. So the first red flag for me is that this... So she was a witness to something and does not tell her husband about this because she is too afraid that he is going to be mad at her because she witnessed it because she took a way home that he told her not to take. And I'm like, I don't like... One of the reasons I don't like domestic thrillers is that I don't like the "can you trust your husband" trope. And I'm like, it's just a red flag for me. The second red flag for me was, the second red flag for me was that it seems to be leaning pretty heavily into the, I know I'm almost done, into the unreliable narrator trope, like really very strongly. And I just, I'm not my favorite. And like, it's due to, okay, hold on. Come here. Actually, hold on. Let me add a little water. Okay, come here, come here. All right. So it does seem that because her mother had dementia, she is now afraid that she is developing that. And there is reason to believe that that might be true. Like, there's not really evidence, as of yet at least, that this is gaslighting, because it's not like, if it involved just instances with her husband, I'd question it more. But it also involves other people, and I'm like, how many people could be in on the con? So I just, when it's something like that, where like you really can't help it, no, I don't like it. And then I thought, you know, even given that, I was like, I'll listen to a little bit more of it. Let's see where it goes. And it's just, it's like, it's bordering on paranoia, like what she's thinking about. And it's not that any specific thing by itself is unreasonable, but it's just, there's just a lot. So, unfortunately, yet another DNF for the month of August. I'm hoping we just get them all out now, and then it's smooth sailing for the rest of the year. So, but yeah, thank goodness for We Could Be So Good, because I'm a little over halfway now and still loving that one at least, so. It is August 26th, and I started a new audiobook this morning. It is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. And I am about 30% into it, and I am not sure what this book is about. So I had it on hold through the library. I'm reading it or listening to it through Libby. And when I do that, I generally don't reread the description of a book before I start it. So I didn't really, and this has been on hold for a while, so I don't really remember what it's supposed to be about. My guess is that it's like a possibly haunted house. I don't know. But nothing has happened. And it's a short audiobook, so I'm going to give it more time, but I'm 31% in, and I am not sure where this is going. Okay, so it's later in the day. I got like halfway through A House with Good Bones. I ended up DNFing it. But I've been reading We Could Be So Good. I'm maybe 80% into it. I am pretty sure that they are about to slow dance with each other, and I do not think that I am ready. It is 10 p.m. I just finished We Could Be So Good by Sebastian. I have to give it 5 stars. I do. I have to give it 5 stars. It's a love story. But it is also a story about loving someone. It's like, they are adorable, and I love them very much. And I cried, I don't know how many times reading this book, but not because it is sad. It is not sad. But like the characters, they are just doing their best while having very big feelings, and so was I. Because, like, it's because you think, justifiably, that what makes that the troubles that they come upon are due to them being two men loving each other in the 1950s. And it's not like that's not present, because it is. But there are also just things that any two people at any time, that love and life are not easy, and there are difficult things. There are always going to be difficult things that are going to make relationships messy sometimes. And but you just do the best you can, and you love each other the best you can, and I loved this. I loved this. Oh my gosh. So I was on my way to the library because of course I've had 3 more DNFs trying to pick out my next book to read. And so I get part of the way there, realize I did not take the books with me to return. So I've got them now. And on my way back to my apartment, I drove by this, through this like subdivision that I've driven through before because these houses, they're the closest thing to my vibe that I've ever actually like been in the presence of. Like, you know, you see beautiful houses, like pictures of them, but like this subdivision, I'm so jealous. And a little more on these houses because I cannot help myself. So like, it's not that they're all like huge big fancy because I don't live next to huge big fancy, but they all look like they were built in the 60s and 70s. They're all unique. They all like, it's a wooded subdivision. Like there's lots of trees, kind of big lawns, so which I don't like cutting grass. But if I figure, if I could ever, in my wildest dreams, afford one of those homes, I could afford to have someone cut the grass, so that's not a problem. But I love driving through there just to admire. And like the people, like there's always people out for a walk. And in my head, I'm like, congratulations, you get to live here. How did you do this? Was it family money? So anyway, back to the library. It is August 29th. It is a bit windy today. The past few days I've had to wear a sweater while reading out on the balcony. And I know we're in false fall. It's gonna be back in the 90s in a few days. But it's coming. It's coming. So yesterday I started reading The Wishing Thread by Lisa Van Allen. And this is giving practical magic vibes. More the movie than the book. I love them both, but this is giving right now more the movie than the book. So it's about this family of women who it's like practical magic in that, like, one, it's got that vibe, but like the whole town kind of knows about this family and sort of goes to this family when they need certain things, but they do their magic by kind of like knitting that intention into a piece that they make for whoever comes asking for it, and then usually their wish is granted. What page am I on? I'm on page 44, so I'm not too far into it. We haven't really gotten to the main action, but we've set up the family. It's got good vibes. I'm enjoying it. It is August 31st, last day of the month. I'm currently reading 2 books. I don't think I'll finish either of them by the end of the day, but I wanted to catch you up on where I'm at coming into the end. So I've been reading the audiobook of Claws of Death by Lorna Barrett. It is book 16 in the Booktown mystery series. It is set in a small town in New Hampshire. It is what's called a book town because there's like a dozen like bookshops in this town, and like they base their tourism basically around people wanting to buy books. So the main character is the owner of the mystery bookshop in town, and people keep getting killed, and she happens to be the one who keeps finding them. So it's a pretty typical cozy. In this one, the man who is murdered, and it's interesting actually. So this is the most recent book in the series, came out last year, and the man who is murdered has somewhat recently gotten into some very like conspiracy theories, kind of like right-wing, just like not quite there conspiracies. And the other thing I'll give it credit for is that there's quite a bit of discussion about gun control in this book, which most authors don't go there, so I give her credit for going there, for talking about it. Otherwise, so far, it'll probably be 2 stars. It's okay. Most cozies for me are 2 or 3 stars. Like, I like them enough to keep reading them, but they're okay. And then I am still reading The Wishing Thread. This is still good. I'm not too much farther into it, but so I wanted to give a little bit more of this setup. So in this family, so the grandmother passes away, like at the very beginning of the book. And she was the one who was doing like the knitting spells for people in town. And it's sort of set up that like the keeper of, or like the whatever they call that, the person in that like main position is then passed to whoever the next person is going to be. And so there are 3 sisters that were raised by their grandmother. And the middle one, Aubrey, is the main character. She is now the next like knitter of, I don't know what it's called, but like she's now that person. And as the grandmother has very recently passed away, her 2 sisters come to town like for the funeral. And one of the sisters has 2 kids, a boy and a girl, who are, I think, 10 and 12, something like that. And like the kids are kind of exploring the house, and like the girl kind of is starting to find some things, is starting to get curious about what might be going on here. Like I'm not sure if the kids know about like the family history because they did not grow up in town. Like the 2 sisters have like moved, like they live elsewhere, I think out of state. So I'm not sure yet if this is the kind of book where like there's gonna be some sort of conflict or some sort of big thing that they have to overcome, or if this is more the kind of book that's just like you get to see a glimpse into a certain amount of time in these people's lives. I don't know yet, but it is still giving the practical magic vibes, so I am enjoying it. All right, I'm done with work for the day, but before I go do some more reading outside on the balcony, let's chat a little bit more about Claws of Death by Lorna Barrett. So, and this part will contain spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled for a part of book 16 in the Booktown Mystery Series, skip ahead to this timestamp. So what I want to talk about is something that is very common in Cozy Mystery Series. It is the will they, won't they relationship between the main character and the chief of police, sheriff, regular detective, whatever. In this case, it's the new chief of police. And the setup for what I want to talk about is that, so he's new in town, but they have met before. So she knows who he is, but they don't really know each other. So when he arrives in town, he's like, oh, you live here, kind of. Like, and then so he invites her out to lunch or dinner or something, which, fine. Like, is it a date? Who can say? It doesn't go bad. It doesn't go great. It's okay. She's not really sure if she wants something with him, because at first she was like, oh, he was in town. She figured he was just visiting. Well, he's sticking around. She's not sure how much she likes him, if she's interested, whatever. He keeps pushing it though. Not pushing it. That's not fair. He keeps trying to spend time with her. Like in the middle of a murder investigation, so setting that aside. So anyway, him being new to town, he needs to find a place to live. So he finds this apartment. Well, she kind of finds the apartment. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, he moves into this new place and then basically kind of asks her to like go shopping with him, to like pick out kitchen appliances. Like, what are you doing? This would maybe be your second date. Like, kitchen appliances is not second date. What are you doing? That's maybe a little bit much. And then he invites her over to his apartment to, I'm not sure, like put a list together of the things that he needs. I'm not super clear. But here's the main thing I want to talk about. Because what she does then, in response to this need of his, is that she volunteers her employee, who she knows goes to like estate sales, rummage sales, like on her own time, she volunteers her employee that while she is on her own time at these estate sales, that she will also look for like home stuff for him. And I'm like, who is going to pay her to do that? Are you paying her to do that? Is he paying her to do that? And further, the other layer is that she knows that this employee has in the past spent time in prison and maybe doesn't want to spend her weekend thrifting for the new chief of police. And I'm like, sometimes these white women in these cozy mysteries, they say things that they don't need to be saying. And I just wish that is a thing that happened. I would like her now then to learn from it. You don't volunteer your employees to do favors for your maybe something person who is the chief of police. What I want, and if you find this, tell me about it. What I want is, because this is such a common trope of that being the relationship in these cozy mysteries, I want an ACAB protagonist so bad. One of these days, it's gonna happen. We're not there yet, though. Well, this book isn't there yet. Maybe it exists somewhere else. Okay, so it's getting a little chilly outside, so I'm gonna wrap it up for the month. I was reading a little bit more of The Wishing Thread. I was up to page 89, I think. So it seems like the main plot point of this one is that, so since the grandmother has died, they've just had the reading of the will. And it seems like, so the assumption was that it was all going to go to that middle daughter. That's not the case. It goes to all three of them. And she said either one of you cannot sell it. Like, if you sell the house, you all have to agree to sell the house. Otherwise, you all own the house. It's all of you one way or the other. And so they're trying to figure out okay, well, so Aubrey, she obviously wants to stay at the house. And she's like, well, you guys, basically just continue on as it has been. And they, to kind of be we're not going to sell it, so we're all going to keep it. So you'll own a third of it, but I'm going to live here. And they're like, no, they have, for some reason, they don't want her to be, it's called the guardian. They don't want her to be the guardian of the stitchery. The stitchery is what the house is called. And it's not, we're going to find out why. I think, there's some hints as to, it's not, there's references to madness, and I'm I don't know what this is. But they want to sell. She wants to keep it. She wants to stay as the guardian, as the person doing these spells. And they were no, there's reasons you shouldn't do that. So I'm curious to see where it goes, how it all plays out. I'm assuming it's just going to have a heartwarming ending, but that's where we're at. So leaving off the month, I have finished 4 audiobooks, 2 physical books. I've got a 5-star, a 4-star, 3 2-stars, and 1 1-star. So definitely a mixed bag. But honestly, that 4 and 5-star books, I loved those. And so, I mean, I did have nearly a dozen DNFs. So, yeah. But I've got plans already for October. I might have to do some interlibrary loans to make this work, but I'm putting together my TBR for October for my next reading vlog. So I will see you then.